quilters, Pam and Erica here today. Hey, we're going to share with you a few basic cutting mat tips and tricks. First, quilters, it's really important to choose the right mat for your die. So if you look here on the packaging, it will tell you what size you need. So for our cute little Scotty dog, we just need a 6x6 mat. Now remember, the die will only cut shapes where there is fabric and a mat.
Right.
So if you're using just one section of the die, like maybe I just want to cut my moose,
okay,
then I can use my smaller mat to cut.
Now cutting mats are going to give you hundreds of cuts, but if you notice that shapes aren't coming out as cleanly as they did before, it's probably time to retire it and get a new one.
Yep.
So one way to extend the life of your mat is to go ahead and be sure that you rotate your mat and flip it around and just keep moving it around to spread out those cuts.
Yep. Now, I was in Ohio last year at an event.
Oh.
I know this is truly...
It's very sad.
It is very sad. We kind of had an intervention with one of our quilters who brought this in, and she said, Pam, it's just not cutting cleanly. I said, no, I think it's time for a new mat. So quilters, if you can start seeing cracks or daylight through your mat, it's time to get a new one.
That's right. We often have customers ask us, why don't you include a mat with every die?
Well, the answer is you're going to have way more dies than you're going to need mats because your dies are going to come in the same size.
Right.
Like, for example, you're going to have lots of 6x12 dies and 10x24 dies. And while it's always a good idea to have a backup mat, you don't need a new one for every die.
Right. Now here's a pro tip for you. So when you're working with a 10x24 mat, which is the size of our strip dies like this one, if you don't ever move your mat around, you just leave it here, it's not going to last quite as long as if you move it a little bit from side to side. So you've got some room on either side to shuffle that mat back and forth when you do your cuts. Bottom line, as long as your die blades are covered, you're going to get your cut.
Now, quilters, did you know that our mats are recyclable? You can just throw them in your recycle bin. Isn't that great? But I met a quilter in Florida, and she actually upcycles her mats. So she takes her 6x12 mats and puts them in the bottom of her tote bags.
Great idea.
Isn't that brilliant?
Great idea. Remember, quilters, you always want to use AccuQuilt cutting mats with AccuQuilt dies and AccuQuilt cutters. Non-AccuQuilt cutting mats have shown warping after just a few passes through the machine. Now, you don't want to use a warped mat because that could cause a poor fabric cut, but it could also damage your die.
Exactly. And quilters, it's always a good idea to have an extra cutting mat or two around.
Yep.
Remember, we have 7 sizes of cutting mats: a 5x10, 6x6, 6x12, 6x24, 10x10, 10x24, and unless you own the Go Big, you should never ever order a 14x16 cutting mat. It will not fit through your Go. You don't want to miss any chance to cut some time.
So you can quilt more.